So what is communication C4D for? So what you're going to ask is, what change do you want to bring about? So do you want to just persuade people? Do you want to raise awareness? Do you want to motivate? Do you want to mobilize, educate, and so on and so forth? Okay, so the goal is very important as to what kind of communication tool we're going to use, because not all communication tools are meant to persuade people. Not all communication tools are meant to educate people or entertain people or empower them. Okay, so we have different set of communication tools that we could use in order to achieve this kind of goals. So we have 4 main tasks for C4D. You have here: facilitate access to information and knowledge, promote participation, giving voice to the excluded, influencing public policies. So number 1, facilitating access to information and knowledge. So people who have no access to knowledge and information are limited in their social and economic development. By linking people to communication processes in media, C4D plays a crucial role in development process. So information now, if you're the one who holds the information, then it means that you are powerful. Okay? Bakit? Kasi information brings power. Power to do what? Power to decide. Okay? If you're more informed, then you have more knowledge on things. Okay? You can understand things better. This means that you could do better decisions in life. Okay? So kaya nga sabi nila, today we have that knowledge gap. Malaki yung knowledge and information gap natin between the rich and the poor. Why? Because the rich would have easy access to information that they need. They would have this broad access to the knowledge that they need. Okay? But then the poor people won't have access to it. So in the end, the rich people could develop themselves further, but then the poor ones won't be able to do that. So lalo lang, it's adding up to the inequality that we already have. Diba? Kasi the rich people could use that information in order for them to become richer, in order for them to become more successful in life, but then the poor ones won't have access to it. So sustainable development goals rightly emphasize the link between access to information on the one hand and social and human development on the other. So over half the world's population has no access to communication and information technologies, even though we're saying now na parang we are a global village because we are connected by the internet. But then when you try to look at it, half of the world's population don't have an access to the internet. So what's going to happen between those half? The half would have access to the net, so they can develop themselves better. But then the other half don't have an access to the internet. Okay, so it's even an issue on what we're doing right now, diba? That what about those people who don't have access to the internet? What about them? How are they going to learn? That's why pinapili ko kayo from the beginning of the SEM on what are we going to do. Are we going traditional or are we going blended? Because you cannot fully really implement a blended learning environment in the Philippines, because you cannot just assume that everyone has that access to the internet. So even this video lecture, I'm kind of doubting if everyone would be able to see the lecture. But that doesn't mean, diba? It doesn't mean that even though I cannot just say na hindi ako magagawa ng video lecture or hindi na ako magtuturo over the internet because some people won't have access to it. Mahirap yun. So I should still do a lecture over the net because some people have access to it, but then I should also make sure that those people who don't have access to the net, I would do an alternative for them to be able to do the requirements in this course. So another is that promoting participation. If you try to look at it, paulit-ulit tayo. Okay? So it's promoting participation. So being able to take part in decision that affects one's life is the basic right of every citizen. Just like what we talk about, C4D is all about dialogues. Okay? So when you do dialogues kasi, people participate. Okay? So sabi nga kanina, di ba, when you do development work, it should be horizontal. Okay? It's not a bottom-up approach, it's not a top-down approach, but communication should be horizontal, meaning everyone should be able to participate. Pantay-pantay lahat sa communication process. When people participates kasi, when you ask them, when you get them involved, they would feel that they are important, that they are really a part of it. Na hindi lang sila passive receivers, hindi lang sila beneficiaries, but then they really own the program. Okay. So they would really, when they own the program, when they have a sense of ownership kasi, it would really make the program more sustainable. When you say sustainable, it means that even though umalis ka doon na project leader, even though umalis ka doon na development worker, the program would still continue. The program would still exist. Okay, I remember we have a community somewhere in Haen, and then we've developed a cooperative of farmers. Okay. So before 2 to 3 lang sila, mga ganyan, konti lang sila, and then kukunti lang rin yung kanilang mga resources. Pero pag pumunta doon, we ask everyone's opinion. Everyone is participating in the discussion on how are we going to make this cooperative work. Okay. Tapos, kahit umalis na kami doon, kahit umalis na yung mga development workers doon, the cooperative still lumakas sila lalo. Okay? Kasi alam nila na hindi naman para sa amin yung cooperative na binuo, para sa kanila yon. And then if you look at it now, after a year nung pagbalik namin doon, they were able to source out like 1 million pesos, okay, coming from the provincial agricultural office. And then yun yung pinapalakad nila ngayon para mabigyan ng pera yung bawat miyembro. Diba? So it's a good example, because you could see that even though wala na yung mga development workers doon, diba, nagpatuloy pa rin siya. So another is giving a voice to the excluded. So C4D gives voice to the excluded. The media in developing countries often reflect viewpoints of the political elite, okay? The concerns and aspirations of less advantaged social groups, people living in poverty, women, young people are often excluded from the national debate, although they constitute a majority of the population. When we look at the media kasi, ang pinaka-ano ng media is that you cannot tell a news about someone who is not newsworthy. So, how do you say that he is newsworthy when he is someone of power, when he is someone of, if he's a politician, if he's an actor or an actress? So, sila yung mga viewpoints na nila titingnan. If you're a doctor, if you're an attorney, diba, that you would have viewpoints on this and these things. Okay? So, yun lang yun reflect actually ng ating media. Okay. So, C4D daw, we should reflect the viewpoints of people who are excluded. So, yung mga hindi masyadong binibigyan ng pansin, people who are poor, women, okay, so young people. So, oftentimes, yung opinions nila hindi masyado nagmamatter on the national level para sa atin. Okay? Kasi hindi sila masyado binibigyan ng pansin. Pero, when we talk about C4D, we give voice to those people, to the elderly, to people in the marginalized sector, okay? Because their opinions matter. Okay? We don't just ask for their opinions, like, diba, if you try to look at the media, tatanungin nila yung opinion ng isang tao, for example, tricycle driver, on yung opinion niya about SONA ng president. But then, it's just for the fanfare. Okay? Para lang may masabi na may against kay Duterte, or may against the government. Okay? So, something like that. But then, it's not really helping on a national, diba? Hindi siya nagagamit for development. Okay? So, what we're doing here is that we give voice to those who are excluded because we use their opinions. We use their opinions for us to craft development programs that could really work for them. Na hindi yung yung kung ano lang nalalaman ng mga magagaling sa taas, yun lang yung matter. Hindi dapat ganun. Dapat yung views and opinions and suggestions ng mga taong nasa ibaba, dapat it should also matter. It should matter more than yung opinion ng mga taong nasa itaas. Okay, so, key function of C4D is to enable excluded groups to make their voice heard and take part of the national dialogues. Okay. So, we have communities there in Karanglan too. And then people who are from indigenous groups often feel as if their voices, di ba, parang hindi sila masyadong pinapansin. Okay. So, NCIP or the National Commission for Indigenous Peoples, ang ganda ng ginagawa nila because they are enabling the indigenous groups to really fight for their culture, to really fight for their ancestral domains. Okay, so it's part of C4D. That's part of C4D. Tapos ngayon, the government is really taking it seriously, that giving back the cultural or ancestral domains to the IP communities. Okay, last is influencing public policies. So, katulad ng sabi ko kanina dun sa mga IPs, if you give them, if you enable them to voice out their opinions, then it could really help influence public policy. So, ang main point natin dito is that people should be able to realize what the problem is. Okay? And we should enable them to voice out their opinions so that in the end, we could influence public policies. Okay? So, before, walang policy on how are we going to deal with ancestral domains of people living in the uplands. Pero ngayon, napakahigpit na ng National Commission for Indigenous Peoples kasi naapektuhan yung public policy. Naapektuhan yung public policy because people started giving their opinions. The indigenous peoples, they start fighting for their rights because of C4D. Because of the communication process na ginawa ng mga tao, yung mga advocates. Okay, so they start fighting for their rights and then they were able to influence yung policies natin on indigenous people and ancestral domains.